Good evening, you're watching Rappler. Almost 8 years ago, the first communication from the Philippines to the International Criminal Court was filed over killings made in the name of Rodrigo Duterte's drug war. And then in the wee hours of the morning on Thursday, March 13, 2025, Manila time, a chartered jet landed in the Netherlands to bring former President Duterte to the ICC and one step closer to accountability that for years he managed to dodge. Good evening, my name is Bea Copin and you're watching Rappler's special coverage, Rodrigo Duterte in ICC custody, what's next? I'm joined tonight by Lian Buan, Rappler senior investigative reporter who has covered the drug war and the ICC case since its inception. We are also honored to be joined tonight by two women who have tirelessly worked to make sure the stories of Duterte's drug war victims are not forgotten. Sara Celis is the mother of Amon, who was killed on February 6, 2017, and Dick Lee, who was killed in August 2017. Mary Tion is the widow of Florencio, who was shot in July 2018. He died 20 days later. Human rights lawyer Joel Butuyan, an ICC-accredited counsel, is also joining us tonight. And later, Gabi Baizas, a digital forensics researcher at Rappler, will walk us through the narratives and the lies that are being spewed online. Lian, medyo late ka na tulog kagabi, kakaabang sa pagland ni former President Duterte in the Netherlands. Can you walk us through what happened? And siguro, sawang-sawa ka na dito, pero walk us through what led to early this morning.
Well, as of the moment, nakakulong na si former President Rodrigo Duterte. He is in ICC custody. At last, for the families and the lawyers who helped them, merong siyang kulungan malapit sa International Criminal Court sa The Hague. Magkaibang facility yon, i-drive or ibabike mo lang mula sa korte at ilang beses nang sinabi maayos yung magiging kulungan niya doon. He has his own sink, bed, bookshelf, computer kung legal research purposes. Pwede siyang magluto, pwede siyang meron siyang open space,
pa, diba?
meron siyang gym. So we know that he's in ICC custody. Lumapag siya kahapon gabi sa Netherlands, magmamadaling araw sa atin. So tulad ng pagpupuyat ng lahat noong Martes nung naaresto siya, nagpuyat din ng lahat. Kahapon, na-delay siya sa Dubai, Bea, kasi we were expecting that morning Dutch time nandun na siya, pero hinintay din siya hanggang gabi dahil matagal siyang nag-refuel or nag-stop over sa Dubai. But that's what we can report. He is now officially in ICC custody. And the International Criminal Court prosecutor is hailing it as an example of how international law works.
Yeah.
Yun ngang first address to the nation niya. He took the chance to say that although he admits that international law can be stronger, he says this proves that international law is not as weak as we may think. And it took the Philippines, it took Filipinos, and it took the women with us today to prove to the world that international law can work.
Kaya pala siya.
Kaya pala
kung
siya.
gugustuhin. Pag-uusapan natin ng mas maigi yung international law na yan. Yung international law mamaya. Pero, bago actually up until the last minute, di ba, na lumipad yung eroplano from NAIA, may mga final sa Supreme Court, tapos kahit nasa ere na siya, on the way to Dubai, or kahit on the way to Netherlands, di ba, may mga kaso pa. Could you walk us quickly through ano ba tong mga fina-file ng Duterte camp?
Okay, so nung lumapag si former President Duterte sa NAIA nung Martes, maaga siyang nakalapag, nag-file agad yung kanyang abogado, yung abogado din ni Pastor Kibuloy, ng petition na humihingi sana ng TRO. Yung TRO isang temporary restraining order na kung binigay sana ng Supreme Court, merong effect na pipigil sa paglipad ng eroplano. Hindi tayo sure kung ano yung jurisdiction nun kasi nga sakop-sakop na yung jury, may Interpol ka, may ICC ka. But to cut the long story short, walang TRO. But it took, kailangan pang magpakalat ng fake news that day, which was carried by some na meron na daw TRO. And in fact, it was used by the lawyers of Mr. Duterte to try to stop the plane from, kakasabi kanina ni General Nick Torre na ang sinasabi daw ni ES Medialdea, hindi pwedeng lumipad tong eroplano dahil may TRO. But we knew, in fact, there was none. Again, to cut the long story short, walang TRO. Pinalipad ang eroplano once they were on the air at gumising na tayo ng umaga ng Wednesday morning, nag-file yung kanyang dalawang anak, si Kitty, who's now famous for her Instagram stories, pati siya ang source pati ng foreign press, si Sebastian Duterte, nag-file silang dalawa ng petition for habeas corpus, which you generally used or in general used by human rights defenders, ironically, kapag nade-detain sila illegally by the state. And the effect of that would be, kung ibigay ng korte ay iko-compel ang iba't ibang mga tao na pabalikin yung si Duterte. Again,
Pero-
I cannot imagine how the jurisdiction of that would be.
Yeah.
Meron bang jurisdiction ang Supreme Court para sabihin sa ICC na ibalik nyo si Duterte? But these local filings are expected, Bea. It's a legal saga, it's a legal drama, but I'm glad that we have sila ma'am now because we believe that dapat yung more than the legal saga, their voices should be heard.
Pag-uusapan natin yung legal battle mamaya kasi medyo marugdog pa to. No? Pero ma'am, salamat sa pag-join sa amin dito. Siguro to start with, ano po yung naramdaman nyo nung narinig nyo yung balita na may warrant na daw para kay Duterte galing sa ICC?
Sa akin po, masaya. Kasi nahuli na siya. At saka, bagong panimula. Ito ng pamamaraan na ano lang naman kami sa kanya na kung anong ginawa sa mga biktima ng EJK. Ewan ko lang kung may isip siya, makapag-isip siya, pero hindi Mas lalo pa siya nagdi-deny na anong kasalanan niya. Itong ginawa sa pagpatay, kasalanan na yun Pero sa amin, ang naramdaman namin, tuwa. May pag-asa kami.
Yung pag-asa po ba na yun, na-imagine nyo po ba na balang araw makakamit nyo? Yung pag-asa pa lang
Makakamit namin yung hustisya, lalo na sa dalawa kong anak.
Ma'am, kayo po.
Sa akin po, naiyak po ako sa tuwa kasi kumbaga nabibigyan po ng linaw yung aming, kahit matagal po, nabibigyan ng linaw yung aming pinaglalaban. Unang-una, hindi adik po ang asawa ko.
Siguro, baka pwede po nating ikwento kung gaano po ba yung pinagdaanan nyo na nagfa-file ng mga affidavit, magpipirma kayo, kukuha kayo ng mga siguro blotter or death certificate. Baka pwede nyo pong ikwento kung mahirap po ba yun na proseso para sa inyo.
Sa akin, sa dalawa kong anak, napakahirap. Kasi, pag magkuha ka ng, kahit sa death certificate, kinuha namin, wala sila ibigay. Pero kung hindi pa sa pamamaraan ng samahan namin ng mga organisasyon, hindi kami nabigyan. Kasi hindi na daw kailangan yung death certificate at saka yung police report.
Sa pulis po ito pag tinatanong ninyo.
Opo.
Kayo, ma'am.
Sa akin po. Kasi nung time na siya, hindi ko na po naisip yung magpa-autopsy. Kaya nung lumapit po ako sa DOJ na sinabi po sa akin na kailangan magpagawa sa punerarya ng parang na-state po doon sa namin na hindi na ako maghahabla, parang ganun. Pero okay naman po, nakahingi naman po ako ng tulong. Hindi naman din po ako nahirapan.
Nakita niyo po ba yung mga statement ng Duterte family na parang na-violate daw po yung karapatan ni Pangulong Duterte nung inaresto siya, kinidnap daw po siya, wala daw pong totoong warrant at hindi daw po binigyan ng pagkain. Nung naririnig niyo po yung mga yun habang pinapakinggan or binabasa yung balita, ano po yung tumatakbo sa isip ninyo?
Asa pa ba naman ba yan sabihin nila? Puro kasinungalingan ginagawa nila. Lahat gagawin nila para na sa mata ng mga supporter nila, maayos yung ginagawa nila, pero sa totoo lang walang nangyari na yung sinasabi yan na parang inapi siya. Baliktad yata.
Talagang mahirap din po sa amin kasi maswerte nga po siya kasi parang special yung ano yun para sa kanya, di ba? Sa amin po, hirap talaga. Kasi, as in, mahirap talaga po kami. Sariling sikap.
Ma'am, di po ba kayo natakot sa buong prosesong ito? Yung sa dami ng paperwork, ang dami ng mga kailangan i-file, kunin na dokumento. May takot rin po bang halo?
Natakot din po. Kasi, natakot din po kami. Lalo na yung mga anak ko. Katulad nga po, sabi nga po ng mga anak ko, huwag ka basta-basta magpa-interview.
Mamili dapat.
Sa akin lang, parang nawawala ng takot ko. Mabigyan ko lang ng justisya yung dalawa kong anak. Sobra kasi, sobrang ginawa niya eh. Mabuti pa siya lahat ginawa ng ICC sa kanya para na. Lahat ginawa sa kanya, pero sa amin wala na yun. Yung sa kanya, lahat na pangalaga, lahat na anong hinuli siya. Pero sa amin, patay agad. Hindi man lang niya pinagbigyan ng ikulong kung basta patayin.
May gusto po ba kayong sabihin sa mga taga-suporta ni President Duterte na baka hindi pinapaniwalaan dahil nga sa pag-idolo nila kay President Duterte, hindi pinapaniwalaan yung sinasabi ninyong mga biktima, baka gusto niyo pong kausapin sila?
Ang sa akin lang, yung mga supporterya, hindi nyo alam kung anong pinagdaanan namin. Huwag kayo bas sa amin kasi kung sa inyo nangyari ang ginawa niya sa amin, hindi namin alam kung ano man gagawin nyo. Kasi para sa amin, napakahirap. Dapat pinagbigyan ng pagkakataon na mabuhay mga tao na pinatay niya. Kawawa yung mga inosenteng pamilya ng mga batang maliit. Alam ko, maraming nababasa amin, pinagtawanan kami, pero nasa sa inyo na yan. Kung maniwala kayo kung hindi, basta. Lahat namin na sinasabi kung anong nangyari sa amin, totoo yun. Hindi kami nagsisinungaling, hindi namin madalas pagsinungaling yan, kasi totoong nangyari sa buhay namin.
Ma'am Marie, yun. Kung may gusto po kayong sabihin sa mga taga-suporta ni President Duterte, kung gusto niyo pong kausapin yung mga taga-suporta ni President Duterte na hindi naniniwala na may patayang nangyari, na may pang-aabusong nangyari.
May utos naman po nila yun. Yun sa ano ko talaga po. Hindi ko maano kasi hirap tanggapin hirap tanggapin pagkamatay ng ano na.
Bea, makikita naman natin na talagang yung trauma, fresh kahit ilang taon na yung lumipas. Lalo na.
Ma'am Sara, kung okay lang po, parang ano pong naalala niyo sa dalawang anak niyo? Ilang taon na rin na yumao sila.
Kung totoo sa inyo, dalawa kong anak, trabaho, pamilya lang yung ginagawa niya. Wala sila may ginagawa ang hindi maganda. Kasi ayaw ng asawa kong ganun. Akala ko sa TV ko lang panood ang nangyari sa mga anak ko. Pero sa totoong buhay pala, nangyari sa amin. Napakasakit. Idol pa naman siya ng anak kong isa, pero hindi naman akalain ng anak ko ganitong mangyari sa mga kuya nila. Totoo sila, sinasabi na maganda yung takbo niya. Anong kinaganda doon? Yung pumatay, sinasabi pa nila na maraming ginawa. Siyempre, oo. 30,000 biniktima niya sa drug on wars na yan.
Marit, yun kayo po. Ano po ba yung naalala niyo sa asawa ninyo nung nabubuhay pa siya?
Naalala ko po yung mga kabutihan niya kasi hindi naman siya masamang tao. mapagmahal yung asawa ko. Tapos, siyempre, yung mga anak ko, hindi rin po matanggap yung pagkamatay ng asawa ko.
Nabanggit niyo po na medyo natatakot yung mga anak niyo para sa inyo. Pero ba't niyo tinuloy pa rin po yung pagkaso, yung paghanap ng hustisya para sa asawa niyo po?
Mabuti nga po, may tumutulong sa amin na ano. Yun po yung papalakas na loob sa amin.
Yung magkakasama-sama
Sama-sama po kami, mga EGK.
Ah.
Siguro po, dahil nga sabi niya, 30,000 yung nabiktima at ilan pa lang naman ngayon yung nakakapagpadala ng affidavit sa ICC. At yung ICC patuloy na tumatanggap ng communication mula sa mga biktima. Kung may nakakanood sa inyo po ngayon na namatayan din ng anak, asawa, pero takot na mag-file or magsabi, ano po yung gusto niyong sabihin sa kanila?
Ano po, ini-encourage namin na sumama sa ano namin. Pinapayuhan din po namin. Pinapayuhan po namin sila.
Worth it po
Opo.
ba ang lumaban?
Gusto naman po nila.
Ma'am Sara, worth it po ba yung lumaban?
Opo. Sa mga kasamahan ko nga nagtatago pa, ayaw magpakita ng sa ngayon gawin nyo na. Humarap na kayo. Huwag kayong magtago. Magtago tayo. Wala. Pagtawanan lang tayo. Walang mangyayari sa mga biktima nga humingi ng hustisya. At saka, gusto ko hindi tayo manahimik. Kasi pag manahimik tayo, kawawa yung mga biktima.
Ma'am, tuwing sunod-sunod na yung mga sinasabi niyo, yung mga nang babash online, kahit sa totoong buhay siguro may nangaaway din kahit papano, di ba? Ano po yung parang kumbaga pinanghugutan niyo?
Sa akin pinanghugutan ko ang
Alang-alang po sa mga anak namin, kailangan lakas ng loob. Tapa.
Ilan po yung anak niyo?
Para
Ilan po yung anak niyo?
6.
Mga malalaki na po.
Opo.
Kamusta,
Malalaki na.
ano naman yung reaction po nila nung nabalitaan na aarestuhin na si Duterte, dadalhin na sa ICC?
Masaya po, naiyak po ako sa tuwa kasi kumbaga sa ano ko, mapibigyan ng linaw. Yung kahit matagal namin pinaglalaban, na sana maparusahan din siya.
Ano naman po yung, naibsan po ba yung sakit na nararamdaman nyo kahapon at nung Martes? Kitang-kita ko po ngayon, hirap na hirap pa rin po kayo. Meron bang kaunting naibsan ba yung damdamin nyo?
Medyo lumuwag-luwag na po ng ano na hininga namin kasi kumbaga nahuli na rin siya. Sana maparusahan din siya.
sa akin
Mas masakit.
naibsan din ang sakit kasi ito ng pagkakataon namin na mabigyan hustisya yung mga biktima, lahat na biktima ng war on drugs.
Siguro pang last na lang po, pang huli na lang po na tanong. Parang kung siguro kaya niyong kausapin yung mahigit 30,000 na namatay sa war on drugs. Siyempre, di nila nakikita yung nahuli na nga si Duterte, di ba? Kung pwede niyo lang silang kausapin, anong gusto niyong sabihin sa libo-libong namatay dahil sa mga utos di umano ni President Duterte?
Sa akin, ito ng pagkakataon natin na lahat tayo mabigyan ng hustisya at saka huwag tayo mawala ng pag-asa. Hindi natutulog ang Diyos para sa amin. Kahit anong ginawa pang Duterte na pagmura sa Diyos, sa amin may Diyos kami. Kaya nga, ito ngayon ang nangyari sa amin.
Sa akin po, lumantad po sila para mabigyan din po sila ng tulong na maipaglaban ang kanilang nawalang pamilya.
Salamat po, ma'am.
Salamat po.
Hindi ko ma-imagine, no? Yung 8 years, 7 years na tuloy-tuloy na trabaho po yun para hindi makalimutan yung kwento ng mga anak niyo, yung asawa niyo.
Ma'am, kayo po ba ay naglipat po ba kayo ng bahay or tirahan o nanatili naman po kayo sa mga bahay nyo nung...
Ako po hindi.
Ako sa
Doon pa rin
bahay.
po sa bahay.
Ganun pa rin bahay namin.
Hindi naman po kayo nakaranas ng harassment?
Hindi naman po ako natatakot kasi hindi naman po kasi addict yung ano ko. Bakit ako aalis?
Nasa tama at nasa totoo naman po kayo. Maraming salamat po. Thank you sa pagsali sa amin dito. Salamat sa pag-share ulit ng mga kwento nyo. At salamat din sa 7 years, 8 years na hindi kayo nagsawa na ikwento yung kwento ng asawa niyo, ng mga anak niyo para hindi din makalimutan ng mga tao. Kahit na may mga basher na tila hindi naniniwala sa mga kinukwento niyo po. Again, thank you Sarah, thank you Marie for joining us tonight. Lian, ikaw ilang taon ka na nagka-cover ng drug war ni Duterte?
Simula ng 2017.
2017. Nabanggit nga nila, di ba, na parang it's about banding together, no? Yung pagsama-sama. Is this something that you see over and over again, na kumbaga strength in numbers or parang courage in numbers, it's how they survive the trauma and the re-traumatization because you have to bring this to court?
Oo, kasi alam mo yung human rights work at mabuti papunta na dito si Attorney Butoyan. Yung human rights work, mahirap siya kasi kailangan mong i-convince kailangan mong tulungan yung biktima na magkaroon ng lakas ng loob na mag-file. Pero hindi mo naman siya pwedeng pilitin because it's their prerogative, it's their discretion na magkaso kung ayaw nila. Hindi naman pwede. And without mounting that many, consolidating, mobilizing them, hindi magiging posible yung makapag-file ka ng communication sa ICC, makapag-file ka ng local cases na yung ilan na dismiss at mapatunayan sa ICC na we have no resort but to go to you. Naalala ko may in-interview ako dati. Bigla siyang naging advocate pag kinausap mo siya ngayon. Tunog campaigner na, advocate na siya. But because she had to learn how to do it. Kasi kung walang gagawa, kung hindi niya gagawin, walang gagawa para sa kanya. So, over the course of a few months, from a wife, kailangan niya ng maging mobilizer, tinutulungan niya yung mga ibang kapwa niya, nanay, kapwa niya, babae na kumatok sa police station, humingi ng blotter. Tapos magaling na silang mag-strategize kung paano makukuha yung mga dokumento. So it's really incredible to see them at this moment na all their hard work has paid off at least dahil nasa kustodiya na ng ICC.
Kumbaga, at least naka-step 2 na. Step 2, step 3 in what's gonna be a long process. We'll talk about that long process kasi may long process domestically. May mga legal do we expect legal battles in the Philippines?
Well, they have already filed 3 at yung isa gumugulong na. So, yes, we do expect a domestic legal battles.
Attorney, thank you for joining us. Sir, speaking of, we were talking briefly about international law earlier, but first I want to zoom in on your initial reactions when you first heard that a warrant was issued by the ICC, and then ang daming nangyari na mabilis pero mabagal din kasi buong araw nakaabang sila Lian, sila Jairo sa labas ng Villamar. Oh, what was going through your head while these things were happening?
Like everyone else, we were so stunned, no? We didn't expect that it was going to happen, no? A few years back, we were really very pessimistic considering the unit team, no? But what 2 years can, what change can happen in 2 years, no? So talagang everyone was really stunned, especially our clients, no? And they were so ecstatic when news came out that Duterte was on his way to The Hague, no? Parang yung mga ibang kaibigan nga namin, parang people power 1986 all over again, eh. Parang ganun yung feeling.
It's like the impossible just came true.
Yes, so
Gusto kong tanungin si Attorney, nakausap niyo na ba si Efren, yung kliyente niyong nabuhay?
Yes.
And whose story is one of the most incredible story of
Yes.
survival? Ano po yung reaction niya?
masayang-masaya siya, no? Napapaiyak siya sa saya. And hindi niya ini-expect daw na mangyayari, no? Akala niya talagang hindi magkakaroon ng ganitong development in his lifetime. Kaya talagang sobrang hindi siya makapaniwala nung una.
At attorney, sabi na kung napanood mo yung video ni Prosecutor Karim Khan kagabi, he says like, this proves that international law is not as weak as some may think. What are your thoughts now na pwede pala yung ganun?
Totoo. Talagang pwede pala, no? Talagang yun yung weapon of last resort ng mga kagaya natin, no? Na talagang walang ini-expect na hustisya sa bansa natin, no? It has been how many years? 9 years, 8, 9 years. Since we filed the first case that challenged Tokhang, actually, with the case of Efren Murillo and 4 of his friends who died in 2016, August 2016.
Tinanong din ni Lian to kanina kay Maria at Sarah, parang when you hear people like Duterte, like Senator De La Rosa, recently he's been saying a lot after silence for over 2 days of decrying injustice, you know, parang questioning if the rule of law is being followed in the arrest of Duterte. What goes through your head when you hear things like that?
Karma. Sobrang ang daming karmang nangyayari sa kanila, no? Sa lahat ng punto, they're invoking due process, they're invoking kung ano-ano. Samantalang nung term nila, parang wala lahat yung mga yan, no? They're invoking even technicality sa warrant of arrest. Nung panahon nga nila, walang warrant of arrest, no? Katok lang, bang-bang na. So talagang karma talaga. And yun yung buhang bibig talaga ng maraming tao.
Yeah.
Bea, si Attorney Butuin and Senator Lo was the first to file a legal challenge to the constitutionality on the war on drugs, a petition that has not been resolved, as I understand, with the Supreme Court. So you're the perfect person to ask this to. Yung mga nagsasabing, bakit naman ako magpapa-judge sa mga foreigner? Bakit tayo tumatakbo sa hindi natin bansa? Can you walk us through what you've done in our local courts and what has been the result so far and why you think ICC is the best option for now?
Yeah. We handled at least 2 cases during the term of President Duterte. The first one was the Murillo case. No? As you said, it was really a tragic, a very dramatic incident where 4 friends were killed. Efren Murillo survived, notwithstanding near-fatal wounds, and he lived to identify the policemen who shot him. But what happened was the police turned the tables, the usual na nanlaban, so they filed direct assault case against him. And we had to represent him, and it took us about 5 to 6 years before we got him acquitted. The first case that we filed in behalf of Murillo and the families of 4 his friends was a writ of amparo, because at the time, they didn't want to file an offensive case against the policemen, no? Because they were really afraid.
Yeah.
No? They were really afraid. It took us some time to really help them process everything. And eventually, they said, let's just file a writ of amparo, no? Which is just seeking protection for themselves, no? And that has been a landmark case dahil sa kasong yun, within a matter of days, in less than 2 weeks, the Court of Appeals issued a writ of amparo giving a 1-kilometer radius protection to them from their places of residence and from their places of work. So dahil sa kasong yan, yung police couldn't enter the 1-kilometer radius, no? So the case obtained protection not only for the families who filed the case, but even for the entire community covered in the 1-kilometer radius. So, you know, one priest that I was talking to months ago said that if the story of the Tokhang years are going to be written, it is going to come out that the Murillo families were in the forefront. No, they did a big service to the country because it was them who really first showed courage to really go against the climate of fear. Remember at the time, senators, congressmen, everyone was afraid.
Yeah.
You know? So these, poor people, they gathered that courage. No? So that's one case. The other case that we filed is the San Andres Bukid case. No? We represented 39 families, 38 or 39, and they also sought a writ of amparo protection for 29 barangays in San Andres Bukid. That's one of the most densely populated group of communities in Metro Manila. Parang Tondo yan, no? So hundreds of thousands of, we filed the case in the Supreme Court. We named the policemen who were part of the police station. That was really doing a lot of human rights violations and really killings in the area. The day after we filed the case, killings stopped. Not only police operation killings, but even vigilante killings. Can you imagine? If there's any evidence that the vigilante killings, that the riding in tandem killings were under police control and supervision, it's that fact, no? That from the moment that we filed the case in Supreme Court, tumigil even the riding in tandem killings, no? So because of that case, no, we were able to obtain protection and ang daming nasalbang buhay sa 26 barangays do San Andres Bukid, no? So those two cases. Unfortunately, and one other achievement in that case is that before that case, ang mga police ayaw nilang maglabas ng police records. Talagang ayaw nila, no? To the point na ang hirap nga dahil ang daming families. Ang protocol is if there's a death because of gunshot wounds, no?
So,
For the government to release a death certificate, they will need police records, medical, legal, SOCO. No? Dahil hindi naglalabas yung police, ayaw nila, many of the families were forced to indicate that the cause of death is pneumonia or stroke. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
No? But because of that case, no, the police, the Philippine National Police, after so many hedging, talagang ayaw nila ng una, no? It took us several motions, and the Supreme Court even issued a very strongly worded resolution. I remember through Justice Carpio at the time, no? And it was only on the third motion that they released the documents, no? And even when they release the documents, basura yung mga binigay nila sa amin kung ano-ano mga kaso. So talagang, if you're going to have proof of really a state policy, no, na talagang yung police ay talagang part nung widespread and systematic and yung lahat na ginawa nila, that's going to be a very strong evidence as well, no? Unfortunately, until now, the Supreme Court has not decided the case. No? There's no decision yet. No? Under the rules on the writ of amparo, they're supposed to decide the case within a few days. But it has been like more than 5-6 years. No decision yet until now.
Oh, attorney, naaalala ko, were you not the first to get Chief De La Rosa to face the court?
Yes.
At the time, so it was also an incredible moment for us, only to go to the next years na wala rin naman palang mangyayari for now. So after going through all that legal motions, can you say that our domestic system was unwilling and unable to prosecute and bring justice to the victims of the drug war?
Definitely, no? And it's not actually entirely, you cannot ascribe entire blame to the judiciary, because any case, any criminal case will have to start with the prosecutors, no? And the prosecutors are under the control of the executive branch, no? They're under the president. No? So kung walang ifa-file na kaso yung mga prosecutors, talagang wala talagang kasong ililitis ang mga korte, no? Kaya yung mga position ng mga ng DOJ and the prosecutors na come victims and file your complaints. That's not supposed to be the case, because it's the responsibility of the prosecutors. Kaya nga people of the Philippines, kasi talagang people of the Philippines ang complainants, the victims' families are just witnesses. And in fact, even without the victims' families, the DOJ and the prosecutors can file the case. Because most of the families actually didn't see the incident. No? They don't have records of the case. No? It's the police that has the capacity, and the prosecutors, the police and the prosecutors, if they team up, they can actually come up with cases. No?
Attorney, you've read the warrant of arrest by the ICC. Paano natin ipapaliwanag siguro sa mga nakikinig din at taga-suporta ni President Duterte? What is he being charged of? Ano yung kasalanan niya sa humanity?
Oo. Initially, no, yung ICC prosecutor filed 3 charges against President Duterte. No? Murder as a crime against humanity, torture as a crime against humanity, rape as a crime against humanity. So, yung 3 yun. No? Pero nung sinubmit yun sa pre-trial chamber, sabi ng pre-trial chamber, there is only sufficient evidence that murder, no, was committed in a widespread and systematic manner na may kinalaman si President Duterte. No? With respect to yung torture and rape, sabi ng pre-trial chamber, merong ebidensya that these crimes happened, no? But there's no evidence that they were committed, no, consistent and in furtherance of the systematic and widespread and state policy. No? Kaya sabi ng pre-trial chamber, Duterte can only be charged with murder as a crime against humanity. So yun yung charge against him. No? And makikita rin natin sa may warrant of arrest na kung ano na yung mga specific murder incidents, no, that are going to be, that were used by the prosecutors. 19 sa Davao during the mayoralty term of President Duterte, and 24 murder incidents in different locations in the country during his presidency. So doon magsisenter yung mga ebidensya na ipipresent ng prosecutor. Although, pwede pa silang magdagdag, no, before trial, the trial proper starts.
And I understand he was described as an indirect co-perpetrator of this extrajudicial killing. So we've been talking about this in ilang araw na, no? So sino yung susunod? Kung may kung siya ay co-perpetrator, may iba pa.
Yes, oo.
Do we expect?
Well, I am hopeful, no? And there are indications, no? Dahil unang-una, ang isang ebidensya against Duterte is yung promotion niya and yung pag-design niya ng Oplan double barrel, no? Sino ba yung kasama niya doon sa sino bang pumirma doon sa Oplan double barrel, no? So meron na tayong lead kung sino pa yung isang potential, no? Tapos meron ding indication doon na ang isang ebidensya against him ay yung pagbibigay ng rewards, no, sa mga who were doing the killings, no? Sino ba yung napangalanan na may hawak ng pera at nagbibigay ng rewards sa mga police na who were doing the killings? So, yeah.
Actually, I just wanted to ask you because you also covered Oplan double barrel as a police, as a police reporter, and you covered Bato.
Actually nga, nung nire-recall ni attorney yung early first months of the drug war, naalala ko yung, because I was covering Camp Crame and the PNP as an institution, I just remembered the first few months na they were, at first, dutiful sila in reporting their own numbers, right?
Yeah.
Inaamin nila kung ilan yung pinapatay in the context of police operations. Tinatali rin nila yung mga pinapatay. I forget the exact term that they used because they kept evolving the terms.
Yeah.
Which just leads me to my point that I remember in the first 6 months alone of the Duterte drug war, they kept changing the rules of the game. They kept changing the way deaths were being counted to the point na at one point Rappler was accused of fake news, using the numbers that I got from the PNP PIO, who would eventually become the PNP chief. So parang, now that I think about it, it's quite amazing na umabot sa point na ganito, right? Kasi in the first 6 months talagang naramdaman mo yung PNP using its full force of fudging the data, manipulating the numbers, trying to control the narrative, right? So that parang, even if you show Bato pictures or ask him about specific scenarios, they would fall into the numbers na hindi yung sarili naming data, hindi din yung kinakwento. Pero parang kung tignan mo talaga na mabuti, iniba niya yung data iniba niya yung basis and counting. Parang dun pa lang, naalala ko talaga na it felt hopeless sometimes, right? Kasi as a reporter covering the institution, na parang, how do you take them to account when they won't even admit their own data?
Oo. Pero nung oral argument sa Supreme Court nung yung kaso na sa Andres Bukid, we were able to put them in a corner dahil meron silang isang official government report where they were flaunting yung number of deaths in 2017 as an achievement, no?
Yeah.
So talagang recorded yun sa kanila. So wala silang masabi nung sinabi namin ito yung ebidensya you are flaunting na meron ng 7,000 plus deaths in less than 1 year. No, so talagang wala silang masabi doon.
They were haughty and proud about it until they realized na, oops, madadali pala tayo dito.
Yeah.
Pero having covered Bato, do you think while in his prime, do you think he believed?
Oh, he did.
But you think he believed that one day they would be brought to justice, or tingin mo they believe that they will forever be untouchable?
I think one thing is also, part of it, they kind of believe that they were doing the right thing. Even if you, until now, if you listen to him, diba, yung mga, how he justifies, not just him, but his supporters, not just his supporters, but even Duterte supporters, diba, how they justify or rationalize, how they make a permission structure in their mind, kumbaga justifying the 30,000 killed under the drug war. Parang it's the same perspective na to them they did the right thing to quote-unquote protect the Philippines. And I think nung when he was PNP chief, I don't think he thought he would end up here. And recently, parang nirecall nga niya, di ba? Parang hurt daw siya. He feels betrayed by President Marcos, who promised that not a single hair would be touched. Minor detail, we all know that he is bald, but that's his exact quote, di ba, na not a single hair will be touched daw kay Bato. So parang, I would easily say this is his worst nightmare. Right? Na parang, and Pia Ranada, who covered Duterte naman during the last panel, she also said na Duterte is afraid because he also didn't imagine that this would happen to him and possibly to his closest aides in implementing this drug war. So,
kayo ba, attorney, in the human rights community, when did it start becoming parang may pag-asa to?
Possible to dream.
Possible to. Was it during the Quadcom or even earlier? When did you start believing na, parang pwede? Nung
nag-aaway na sila, actually, doon kami nagkaroon ng pag-asa. Kasi talagang nung grabe na yung away, the Marcoses will have to really ensure na hindi na makabalik sa poder ito mato. Kasi otherwise, lintik lang, walang ganti. The Marcoses will taste the kind of revenge that they should have tasted during the EDSA Revolution and na hindi nila naramdaman o natikman. No? So, doon kami nagkaroon ng merong pag-asa.
Bea?
Using also the... Sir, actually, yung iniisip ko, again, looking back sa first few months of the drug war, and I had a very different perspective, for better or worse, from Lian, right? Kasi I was inside Krame, sometimes beside De La Rosa, as I distinctly remember, in Bacolod, announced to the world na sunugin niyo daw yung mga bahay na mga drug lord. Utos na yun. Tapos lumapit siya sa akin after. He told me, Bea, inaaway daw siya sa social media. Sabi ko, sir, pero sinabi mo yun, di ba, sir? Sabi niya, oo. So, tinginan lang kami. Hindi niya na-absorb na mali yung sinabi niya right away. But anyway, now that you were recounting earlier, no, parang it's been a lot of big wins, a lot of small wins, but also a lot of heartbreak. Right? Parang moments where impunity persists in the Philippines. I wonder what gets you through the process of fighting this difficult fight through the years.
alam mo, parang ano yan eh, parang kati na wala ka, if you believe and subscribe to the right principles, and you live them, no? And you encounter human rights violations, whether it's committed against your friends or sa lahat, no? Kahit kanino, no? Parang katiyan na kailangan mo talagang,
Hindi ka makatulog.
Hindi ka makakatulog. And you do what you have to do. Talagang, kung nasa puso mo, nasa nasa ulo mo yung prinsipyo, na kailangan for this country to move forward and to improve, talagang kailangan panagutin yung mga ganitong klaseng mga elemento sa ating society na talaga. Otherwise, talagang ang choice mo is you just migrate abroad, no? Kasi talagang sobrang frustrating, no? Wala nang pag-asa sa ating bansa. So you do what you have to do, whatever little thing that you can contribute towards making this country a better place for us and for our children. Yeah.
We have a few questions lang from the Rappler Communities app. I think this is very important for people who are very interested in what's happening, but siguro, as Lian would know, ako naguguluhan din ako sa international law, no? ED86 asked to please explain it like he or she is 5. What are the steps that the ICC takes for cases like this? Will the Philippines need to cooperate? Or what does the Philippines need to cooperate on? Will we need to cooperate? Siguro yung biggest question is how long will this take? I know it's been 7 years since,
Yes.
more than since the start of the drug war. And what's the future of this case looking like?
Yeah. Ngayong nasa The Hague na si former President Duterte, the first order of the day is for him to decide whether he's going to represent himself or he's going to hire a lawyer who's in the list of counsel. No? Kasi he has that option to represent himself. No? And with his braggadocio, hindi man tayo pwedeng, we cannot discount that possibility. No? And then kapag meron na siyang counsel or he represents himself, we expect that he's going to file a series of, or he has the option to file a series of motions or applications, no? He can apply for an interim release, sasabihin niya na pakawalan ako, no? Hindi sa detention center, and I will attend the trial kasi he's required to attend the trial, no? Pangalawa, he can question the validity of the arrest, no? Yung mga pinagsasabi nila dito, questioning yung process, blah, 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 no? He can raise that before the ICC, no? Pangatlo, he can again question the jurisdiction of the ICC, no? They can again bring up the argument that since hindi nyo final yung kaso within that 1-year period or hindi nagkaroon ng formal investigation within that 1-year period, nawala na ng jurisdiction ng ICC, no? Yung position ng Philippine government during his time and during the time of President Marcos. They can actually relitigate that issue kasi that was raised by the Philippine government at that time and Duterte can raise it himself. No? And then, ang susunod na process ng ICC is yung confirmation of charges. No? Kumbaga, ito yung parang, kung sa atin, para ito yung judicial determination of probable cause. Yung pag-file ng prosecutor ng kaso, the judge will have to satisfy himself or herself kung may basihan nga yung final ng fiscal. No? So, sa confirmation of charges, mapapakita kay Pangulong Duterte kung ano yung ebidensya laban sa kanya. No? So, makikita niya kung sino yung mga testigo, ano yung mga klaseng mga ebidensya. No? And he can actually also present evidence, no, to contest yung mga ebidensya na yon, no? Kasi the judges, either the judge or 3 judges pala of the pretrial chamber will decide after the presentation of arguments and evidence whether to confirm the charges, in which case pupunta na yan sa trial, or sustain the objections or the arguments of Duterte and i-dismiss yung kaso, or sasabihin na sa prosecutor, come up with more evidence. No? So pagkatapos nun, the ICC presidency is going to constitute a trial chamber.
Okay.
Yung trial chamber na yung sasalo nung gagawin ng pre-trial chamber. Siya yung mag-ano dun sa may arraignment, yung sa may parang pre-trial proceedings na ilalatag lahat, yung parang bago ka pumunta sa giyera, ano yung sandata mo, ano yung sandata mo. No?
Parang
Yeah.
rules of engagement.
Rules of
kumbaga,
engagement, parang ganon. No? Pag-uusapan yan ng parties with the court. No? Pagkatapos nun, mag-uumpisa na yung presentation of evidence ng prosecution.
Attorney, where's the victims in all of this? Para ba siyang sa ating process na per every pleading that he files, the victims get to answer it also?
Yes, oo. Pero ang proseso niyan is the ICC will appoint a victims counsel, no? Normally isa, madami na yung dalawang victims counsel who will represent all the victims, no? And the victims counsel will participate in the proceedings, no? And he or she can also present witnesses during the trial. Oh.
Yung ano, 'di ba sabi nga, pwede na siyang mag-file for an application for an interim release
Yes.
and if he promises to
Yes.
attend the trial. I understand may mga conditions, elements din natitignan yung mga judges kung, dapat ba kitang pakawalan? Ano ba yung mga i-consider nila kung papakawalan o hindi ba nila si Duterte?
Oo. May tatlong considerations dyan. Yung risk na he will fly away, no? Magtago siya and hindi siya magiging available during the trial, no? Ang pangalawa is yung risk na he will intimidate the witnesses. And third, that he will tamper with the evidence and throw a monkey wrench on the trial and the evidence and the witnesses, no, of the prosecution and the victims. So yun yung mga ano. And actually, even if there's going to be an initial ruling denying the application for interim release, under the Rome Statute, mandated yung ICC to review yung ruling niya. Kasi po pwedeng 1 year after, meron
Wala na
ng-
yung risk, ganun.
Wala na yung risk.
Circumstances
So,
may
yeah,
change.
may circumstances may change. So, pwede siyang pakawalan from the detention center.
Yeah.
Oo.
There's actually a question also from the community's chat. Sabi ni Derek, what are the scenarios or possibilities that Duterte can be returned to the Philippines? Is there a scenario na pwede siyang bumalik dito, considering what you laid out earlier?
I think considering the history, our culture here, and the political forces, malabo na mangyayari yun.
Do you imagine any legal framework wherein the Supreme Court can say, yes, I will grant the privileges of the writ of habeas corpus? At paano yun?
Imposible na mangyari yun kasi ang habeas corpus is premised and predicated on the presence of the person in the Philippines na nasa jurisdiction pa ng ating mga korte. Ito wala na si former President Duterte, no? And he is under the custody of an international court, no? Walang jurisdiction and walang power yung Supreme Court natin. Even our Supreme Court has no power to issue orders against an international court.
Right.
Makes you think na pivotal at importante the decision to put him on a plane
Yeah,
and let
right
that
away.
plane take off.
Actually.
And to not allow him to leave Villamor, right? From Naiya
Yes.
diretso Villamor, that's basically the same compound.
Oo.
So there's also, I mean, I guess that also means na for the Philippine government, there's cognizance na you can't, it's not safe and it's not in their interest to let him go far.
Yeah. Oo.
Right.
Oo. Nung nalaman ko na nandun siya sa Villamor and then several hours nandun siya, sabi ko lilipad ngayong gabi to.
Yeah, wala nang scenario na
Oo.
papaalisin pa
Yes.
or
Oo.
Davao pa. May tanong din actually, sinagot na yung tanong ni Ore, sabi niya, can the Supreme Court request or oblige the ICC? Pwede ba yun? I-oblige ng Supreme Court to return him back to the Philippines. There's another question, and I think it ties to another question that was phoned in or chatted in. May nagtanong, how long will the trial of Rodrigo Duterte last? I know you didn't give us an exact timeline. And in connection to that, he's turning 80. Is there a scenario na pwedeng appeal on health reasons or humanitarian grounds na kung baga, ewan ko ba, palayain siya, i-release siya or whatever because he's 80, turning 80?
Hindi ground yung dahil matanda na siya. In fact, actually, kung titignan mo yung ibang nakakulong doon, halos pare-pareho sa ages na meron pang 80 plus na mga nandun.
Mean pala sa ICC, mean age sa ICC.
Hindi, so kung health reasons, dadalhin siya sa hospital, gagamutin kung ano yung sakit niya, and then, pag medyo gumaling na siya, ibabalik ulit siya sa, and then yung age, it's never a factor on the issue of whether or not bibigyan siya ng interim release. No? And then yung question mo ng kung gaano katagal, if you look at the cases that have been tried by the ICC, ang pinakamabilis is 2 years.
Oh, I see.
Ang karamihan is mga umaabot yan ng 7 to 8 years.
7 to 8 years. Ito, attorney, siguro explain it to me like I'm 12. Hindi naman 5.
Hindi na 5.
Siguro, like, if I were listening to you earlier, no, parang you narrated each and every step, the back and forth that happened in every step. Hindi siya dire-diretso, di ba? Go forward, you can go backward. Bakit ganun? Bakit ganun kahaba? Bakit ganun kadaming steps? Parang kumbaga siguro isipin na iba, parang kulang pa ba? We've waited, victims of the drug war have waited 8 years, 7 years for this to happen. Bakit ang haba pa ng proseso, even at the ICC?
No. Kasi alam mo, yun yung tamang proseso eh. Kasi you are dealing with the life and the liberty of a human being. No?
Right.
Sa principles ng international, napaka-importante yan. No? Na bago mo patawan ng penalty of imprisonment. Dito, it's going to be life imprisonment. Dahil 30 years, that's already life, more than life for the former president. Bago mo patawan ng ganon, kailangan mo talagang bigyan ng opportunity yung akusado na i-prove na talagang hindi siya deserving sa penalty na potentially impose sa kanya.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
So talagang dadaan. Saka, nasa kamay niya rin, no? Kung magfa-file siya ng sangkatutak ng mga motion applications
Hahaba
and
at
appeal, no?
hahaba.
Talagang hahaba talaga yan. No? Hahaba talaga yan. No?
So ito yung due process na hindi nakuha
Yes.
ng mga biktima ng drug war.
Yes, oo.
But there's also a discussion to be made, siguro, attorney, na yung length of trial is also crucial for the victims kasi the more that it prolongs, yung reparations tumatagal ng tumatagal. Nakita naman natin, sabi nga nila, mahirap din naman daw sila. What will the reparation, anong magiging itsura ng reparations? Will everyone be entitled? How do you work on that?
Oo. Ang mga victims who want to participate in the ICC proceedings and who want to be part of the reparations award later on will have to fill up a victim's application form, no? And isa-isa yan titignan ng mga judges kung talagang they will give the status of a victim, no? Sa particular applicants, no? So importante talaga na kailangan ng mag-fill up yung mga willing, no, na mag-participate kasi their application forms and their status will be considered later on during the reparation stage, no? Ngayon sa reparation, manggagaling yan sa kung anong property na makukuha, anong assets na makukuha sa akusado, no? Kung walang makukuhang properties, no, or assets, no, merong fund yung ICC, no? May fund yung ICC na po pwede niyang gamitin, no, to satisfy the reparations award, no? Pero hindi automatic na or it's not the usual practice of the ICC na individual award sa mga biktima, no? Karamihan nga it's a community award, it's a project award kasi sa dami. Kasi kung 30,000 yung and limited naman yung pondo ng trust fund, hindi mo talaga mabibigyan ng award lahat. Oo.
Konting legalist na tanong lang, Bea, no? We've been talking about Article 59 of Rome Statute for 2 days now. I don't know if you saw, sinabi ni DOJ Yusek ni Kitty kanina na They believe we are not bound by Article 59 of the Rome Statute, but they made substantial compliance anyway, but by having the Prosecutor General there, parang sila daw yung competent judicial authority. What do you think of that? And also, big deal pa bang pag-usapan yun at this point?
Dalawang issue kasi yan, no? Una, yung validity ng issuance of the warrant of arrest and yung validity ng implementation of the warrant of arrest, no? Yung validity ng issuance of the warrant of arrest, that's the exclusive jurisdiction of the ICC. Yung implementation naman of the warrant of arrest, no? That's actually the province of the the custodial state. No? Kung babasahin mo yung Article 59, actually, yung ICC will request, mga ganun yung terminology. No? So talagang jurisdiction niya ng domestic, it's a domestic mechanism. No? Although, merong minimum standards na ini-impose yung Rome Statute, like kailangang malaman kung yung taong naka-name doon sa warrant of arrest, yun yung inaaresto, no? 3 bagay lang yung i-determine nung competent judicial authority. Pangalawa, kung na-violate yung rights niya, no? Pangatlo, kung dumaan sa tamang proseso under the laws of the custodial state, no? And so lahat yung mga yan, hindi yan, yung domestic custodial state ang magsasabi, no, ang mag-i-enforce, no. And kung titignan mo yung nakalagay pa nga doon, in accordance with the laws of the custodial state, no. Kung titignan mo yung ginawa kay President Duterte during the implementation of the warrant of arrest, yung in accord sa kanyang treatment is actually more than yung pag-accord sa kahit na sinong akusado na siniservan ng warrant of arrest. So, more than yung standards ng domestic law natin ang na-comply natin, no? So, yun
above and beyond.
Above and beyond, no? So, yung between yung substance ng Article 59 and yung technicalities, no? I think yung substance has been complied with. Yung technicality na kailangan dumaan sa competent court, technicality lang yan, kumbaga procedure lang yan, pero ang importante yung substance, no? Pangalawa, meron tayong Article 9851, which is actually, it's a mirror image of the Rome Statute, no? We domesticated the Rome Statute into the international humanitarian law natin, yung RA 9851, no? Dun sa may provisions ng RA 9851, Article Section 7, nakalagay doon na merong discretion yung Pilipinas to directly surrender, no? So,
which people conveniently forget.
Yes, So, doon sa may predicate na yung implementation ng warrant of arrest is a domestic issue, no? Yung domestic court or yung domestic state has the option to kung ano yung proseso na gusto niya, no? Na sinundan niya yung batas niya and hindi naman violated yung substantial rights nung akusado, no? So I don't know kung i-raise nila yan sa sa ICC, sabihin ng ICC, mag-complain ka doon sa may doon sa Pilipinas, sila yung nag-enforce yan. No? Pwedeng ganyan yung mangyari, no? And meron ng previous case yung Bagbo case, no? Na ganyan din, nag-complain siya on the implementation of the warrant of arrest, no? And ang decision ng ICC is, we are not convinced that the rights of the accused were violated because of what happened, no? So, yung ganong klaseng wording, parang there was substantial compliance, no? There was substantial, so there's no, parang hindi naman kailangang i-follow mo yung procedure to the letter. For as long as lahat nung yung basic requirements, fundamental rights ng accused were observed, legal yung implementation. And hindi mo rin maku-question yung legality ng warrant of arrest. Nakalagay pa nga dun sa Rome Statute that the local court cannot review the validity of the warrant of arrest.
Attorney, in hindsight, how do you assess yung naging legal design nitong pag-implement more than the logistics na alam na dadalhin sa airbase, may chartered plane. Did they cover all their legal bases, do you think? What's your assessment?
I think they substantially covered their legal basis. Considering the risks and considering the special circumstances, exceptional circumstances of this particular subject of a warrant of arrest, I think they did right. They did right. Kasi in addition sa legalities, nandun yung political, pwedeng magkaroon ng bloodshed and everything, no?
Yeah.
Just because of a technicality, pwede mo namang i-avoid yun. No? Parang ano nga assessment ko is, the Marcos government took a page out of yung ginawa ni President Cory noong 1986, no? Na she decided to move swiftly and consent to order the shipping out of Marcos Sr. and not for him to stay a day longer kasi there's going to be a political unrest, no? Parang ganun din yung ginawa ni BBM.
The ironies, no?
Yeah.
in what happened on March 11. Do you have questions pa? Or, ito phone in question din. People are curious. Will there be a chance for the witnesses, such as Las Cañas, etc., and Duterte to actually face each other before the International Criminal Court? Will there be cross-examinations? Like, ano attorney yung literal na makikita, mawitness natin once a trial begins?
Oo. Very basic yung right ng accused to be able to confront yung witnesses against him. So, maghaharap yan, no?
Right.
And kung titignan mo yung charges dun sa may warrant of arrest, talagang malaki doon sa ebidensya na ginamit ng prosecutor are based on the testimonies of Matabato and Las Cañas, no? Especially on the Davao years, no?
Yeah.
So it's really inevitable na magkikita sila doon sa may
Right.
baka magmumurahan pa.
Ito ba yung attorney yung naka-enclose sila sa glass cases merong headphones para
For real-time
ma-translate?
translation?
Ganun ba yun? Am I imagining the correct scenario?
May translation talaga, especially din since si Matubato sa Las Cañas, hindi sila conversant dun sa English. In fact, si Matubato is may problem on his literacy. No?
So,
Bisaya, oo, no? So talagang, and then nandun si President Duterte kasi merong cubicle yung witness, and then meron ding space yung accused, no? So mag-eyeball sila doon. Matagal.
Baka magulat yung mga ICC judges sa
Bumurahan na sila ng
potential
Bisaya.
behavior nila doon.
Tapos mga Bisaya na nakakaintindi na nangyayari in real time. Attorney, it's here to wrap up tonight's discussion with you. Ang dami ng mga kwento, dami ng narratives na pakalat-kalat. A lot of them are false, and Gabby later will be talking about that, no? But as someone who has worked with and for drug war victims all these years, what's a couple of things, one or two things that you hope yun yung maglinger sa utak ng mga tao when they look back on March 11, when they look back on March 13, on those 2 dates when he left the Philippines and when he landed in the Netherlands and into the custody of the ICC?
Ang sa akin, no, yung mga tao should even just temporarily set aside emotions, no? And read the stories of the victims. They read the stories of the victims, setting aside their prejudices and emotions, biases, kung ano man, no? That has to do with emotion. Kasi kung talagang babasahin mo yung yung mga kwento na mga yun, no? And imagine mo yung sarili mo sa kanilang kalagayan. I don't think you will still disagree with the fact that there is really need for accountability, no, for what happened. No? um, the Tokhang years were the most violent period of our history after World War II. Nung martial law, 3,000 lang yung namatay. Dito, 30,000. Can you imagine? So, kailangan magkaroon ng hustisya, no, yung mga pamilya. And kailangan natin talagang linisin yung ating history, yung ating kultura, no? Para hindi na mangyari yung ganito in our near or down the line, in our future. Kasi talagang pwedeng paulit-ulit na mangyayari ito, no? Kung malagay na naman sa poder yung mga kinatatakutan natin, kung walang ganitong klasing takot na matatanim sa kanilang isipan, no? Mangyayari at mangyayari ulit ito.
Thank you, Attorney. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for explaining the long process that is in the ICC, and thank you for the work that you've been doing the past decade or so in the drug war alone. Salamat, sir. We were talking about the narratives, no, of the arrest of Rodrigo Duterte, his arrival in the ICC. Gabby Baizas, as I mentioned during the last panel, has been keeping her eyes and ears close to the social media chatter, ostensibly also so that we don't have to. Gabby, nakita ko kanina, nagtatrending sa Twitter ang Wake and Bake. Ano ba yan? Ano yung Wake and Bake na yan? And then, what are the lies, what are the narratives, what are the truths that are emerging sa social media narratives?
Okay, sige. So, Bea, you mentioned then the Wake and Bake trending online. No? So, earlier this morning, there were social media users who were talking about, of course, this is, they said that they got access to like yung private account ni Kitty Duterte, yung Finsta niya on Instagram, no? Of course, this needs additional verification naman, no? But then yung social media users, they were claiming that Kitty Duterte is actually a drug user. So syempre, Kitty Duterte has been the talk of the town talaga the past few days kasi for the past few days since the arrest, she's been yung eyes and ears kasi sa Villamor Air Base. She has the eyes on ano yung nangyayari sa kanila, like inside inside the inner workings of like the Duterte base and everything. And of course, it was not lost on people siguro that, of course, when social media users were claiming that she was a drug user, they also noticed that parang that's kind of hypocritical of her to be posting, to be sharing with even her private Instagram account, no? Kasi, of course, ang dami ring namatay during the drug war. And it wouldn't be fair for her to keep defending her father and to say that he did nothing wrong. This is unlawful, this is unjust. And for her to be using these illegal drugs also at the same time, no? Of course, this needs additional verification, but that's the chapter online surrounding Kitty Duterte. And our one of our editors, si Jella Gonzalez, he wrote a story on Rappler about Kitty and like yung mga posts niya, like her constant updates about ano yung nangyayari since his arrest, no? And what happened was, syempre, it was routinely picked up by media outlets. So she was one of the most popular sources siguro of yung on-ground blow-by-blow updates of Villamor Air Base. And what's really interesting is that she was really painting her father as the victim in all of this, no? And I think that's something that she did successfully. Na she was able to garner sympathy from a lot of different people online, na showing na he's not being given like yung mga medical needs niya. He's only been given a sandwich to eat, na ganito kadagaling flight niya and everything. So of course, she's been painting her father as, this victim who deserves our sympathy, no? But of course, social media users are saying, what about the sympathy and the justice for the victims of the drug war?
Yeah. Para for the uninitiated, kung natataka kayo why Veronica or Kitty Duterte is trending, part of it is also because she became the de facto spokesperson, narrative pusher of that might not be the best word to use, but she was pushing the narrative of the Duterte narrative, right? While the long wait in Villamor was ongoing. But Gabby, ano yung mga napapansin natin na are we seeing the same communities being tapped by the pro-Duterte or maybe even the pro-Marcos networks on social media the past few days?
Oh, alam mo, this is super interesting kasi kami on the Digital Forensics team, we've been monitoring yung discussions on Facebook, especially surrounding Duterte. So we do have a timeline of yung mga posts from the past 2 days. So naturally naman, nag-spike naman talaga sila ever since the arrest, since he flew out of the Philippines and into the Netherlands. But these are posts, syempre, including mga news posts from news outlets, posts that are critical of Duterte. So naturally, it would spike after these certain events. So what we did was we wanted to look into the networks, kung sino-sino yung mga ibang communities that are spreading different kinds of messages surrounding Duterte. What's interesting is that we found, of course, our initial task is we check kung may explicit pro-Duterte groups ba, pro-Marcos groups, explicit political groups. What we saw was there were actually entertainment pages, fan pages, and yun, mga entertainment groups and communities and vlogger communities that were spreading pro-Duterte posts online like amid the ICC.
Entertainment clusters, entertainment pages yung ginagamit, or parang is this innovation, kung if it's proper to use that term, innovation of the Duterte network?
Well, definitely this isn't new. We've seen this before naman that the Duterte network has tapped like yung mga entertainers, celebrities, tsaka ibang fan pages to spread pro-Duterte propaganda. Siguro yung specific dito is, siguro nagulat lang kami no, ni Pauline, our lead forensics researcher, that they were using Eat Bulaga pages. So that's something new to us. Eat Bulaga pages, they were all like coordinately posting about Duterte and the arrest in general, no. Syempre not all of them naman contain outright disinformation. Yung iba naman, like they do have some sympathy towards the former president. So for instance, they'll outright say pray for PRRD, or they would rehash like yung ganong narrative na mabuti naman yung ginawa niya because he was doing it out of his love for the country, he's protecting the Filipinas, etc. But we also did see that these entertainment groups and pages were spreading outright disinformation that have already been fact-checked by media organizations and fact-checkers, no? So an example is like yung false claim about na may TRO sila. That's been amplified by these fan pages. Tapos we also have on the right side a false quote card from US President Trump, no? Supposedly defending Duterte amid the ICC arrest warrant. So that's something that everyone monitoring social media can't forget na these kinds of pages and fan communities, they can also be tapped to spread disinformation and propaganda online. And that's not something that's been, it's not happening for the first time just now. It's been done by the Duterte network for years now.
Yeah. Gabi, last question from me siguro. Are we seeing like explicit touches of 2025 politics, specifically the 2025 elections, no? Muddling or weaving its way into the narratives, including the disinformation and the lies, nitong the past 3 days?
Well, definitely, maybe not in the lead up to the election for the 2025 election, no, but definitely there are lots of partisan discussions online. We discussed this in the panel earlier this week, that of course, because the Duterte camps and the Marcos camps online, they've since separated since the fallout and the very public breakup between President Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte. So we also have the Duterte network, of course, coming to the defense of the Dutertes, but we also have the Marcos network among the actors online, no, that are criticizing the drug war, saying that we should remember the victims of the drug war. Very ironic then coming from, the Marcos supporters online. No? So we've been seeing that kind of partisan divide definitely in the discussion surrounding the drug war. So we can expect that we'll be seeing more of these political and partisan narratives moving forward.
Gabby, thank you again for being our eyes and ears onto social media so that we do not have to. And thank you for your work in just monitoring all the noise, all the lies that's being propagated online, even as we try to report what's happening in the truth. Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you, Bea.
Lian, paulit-ulit na ako the past 2 days na parang this is something you've been covering. You've covered the drug war, you covered the cases, not just the ICC, pero yung mga kaso dito, yung attempts, the wins, the losses in trying to challenge Duterte, the drug war, Ronald De La Rosa. Have you been able to make sense of the past 3 days from the issuance of the arrest warrant and from him landing in The Hague?
Honestly, ngayon lang. Kaninang umaga ako process because nandun na siya sa The Hague, so I've been able to spend some time thinking over it. And I think ang na-process ko ay, if indeed perception was real, there are two perceptions. The first perception is the Duterte perception. Sabi nga ni VP Sara, di ba, we're not Filipinos for nothing kung papayag kang kunin tayo ng foreigners. The Dutertes want us to be ashamed that we have subjected our country to foreigners. There's another perception. Rather than be ashamed, maybe we should be proud that once again, the Philippines is the model for international justice.
Yeah.
Once again, we prove that we can achieve or at least hope for justice without bloodshed. We did it once, we did it again. Sabi ko nga, today is a very good day for pessimists, which include me and sometimes you, and many others we talk to a lot. And there's reason for our pessimism, di ba? Politics, ICC's existential crisis, yung sanctions ni President Trump that threatened the ICC and all of its mechanisms around the world. Pero narinig natin si Sara at si Marit yun, sabi nila, worth it naman.
Yeah.
So kung sila kayang magpasensya, bakit tayo hindi? So they gave us all the more reason to wait, be patient, and keep on.
Yeah. Dian and I joke a lot about, it's not a very funny joke, but we joke about international law, the rules-based order, and how sometimes it feels like an uphill climb. But there are days nga na mamamangha ka na lang na pwede pala siyang gumana from time to time. Thank you, Lian, for this discussion. Thank you for the past 3 days, the past 7 years actually, of covering the drug war, end of the ICC case, and of the many cases still pending actually yung iba, no?
Correct.
Before local courts here in the Philippines. Let's continue the conversation. You can download the Rappler Community app and head on over to the Justice and Human Rights chat room where we can continue this conversation. You can even ask questions there. Sinagot ni Attorney kanina yung mga tanong niyo about the ICC process, etc., etc. And you can get updates there as well. There are a lot of stories that dominate, weave through, and disrupt both Duterte's drug war and its consequences, to include what many see as a comeuppance for Rodrigo Duterte. There's politics, local politics, international relations, accountability, and justice. But this is what I hope you take away from tonight and the past 3 days. We're often told, quoting Martin Luther King, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But what we sometimes miss is the long, arduous, and difficult road many people choose to take for that arc to bend towards justice. So I thank our guests tonight, Sara, Marie, Lian, Joel, and Gabby, not just for sitting with me here, but for the hard work they've put behind the scenes to make sure that one day we find ourselves in a position where it's possible to hope and dream of justice and accountability. Thank you for watching. This has been Bekupin. Keep it on Rappler.